legend goes that you came back in disguise to India. You also secretly managed to visit your own house. You managed to attend parliament as well. And then you escaped back without being caught by the powers that be.
They put it out that Mrs Gandhi shown to be a tin pot dictator. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he was Prime Minister, with the DMK allies, they decided to cut a canal that were meant cutting through the bridge that Rama built.
Gandhi family has been, sometimes blow hot, blow cold. And do you feel that any one of them will have a crucial role to play in Indian politics in the next decade?
But the family pressure was there. There would always be suspicious why that pressure was there. So Rajiv Gandhi went, and we knew that it would be very difficult to protect him also. And Rahul Gandhi doesn't want to live in India. In fact, he has a British passport, British citizenship. I've got Mrs. Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi on bail. Rahul Gandhi is on bail.
Yes, the National Herald.
Yes, National yes, well informed. Surprisingly, and I must tell you this, whether you can show it or not, it's up to you. It is Mr. Modi who is blocking me from bringing this to a finality. A. Raja, who is one of the DMK components of the Congress coalition government, he was sent to jail. Many others were sent to jail.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sampada Vaze, and today I have with me a guest who's an absolute legend. He's been a part of Indian politics for 6 decades, and he's also shaped history. In fact, he's been a cabinet minister twice, a member of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha respectively 3 times each. He has had a close, although sometimes rocky relationship with most of our prime ministers, and many of our finance ministers have come to him for advice. He has also single-handedly exposed some of India's largest anti-corruption cases, including the 2G case. And he was also responsible for the blueprint which shaped India's economic reforms in the 80s. Ladies and gentlemen, his personal reputation and his intellect make him absolutely fearless and a power to reckon with. I'm absolutely thrilled to have with me today Dr Subramanian Swamy. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Thank you for having us here. I believe you have a very busy schedule. You're traveling also.
Yes, traveling out of the country tomorrow.
And you're going to be away for a bit. So you were just able to squeeze us in here.
Yeah, bit means 5 days.
You're away. Okay. All right.
United States.
All right. So during the course of the research, before this podcast, I came upon so many interesting life stories, and I'm hopeful you'll be able to confirm them and give me a lot more detail about them. You're widely known as an emergency hero. In fact, legend goes that you came back in disguise to India. You also secretly managed to visit your own house. You managed to attend parliament as well. And then you escaped back without being caught by the powers that be.
Right.
So tell us more about it.
Well, the part which I was not in disguise is the part where I entered parliament.
All right.
If I had come in disguise, they would have stopped me.
Right.
Because they are very strict in parliament. So, and at that time there was about 18 cases against me, an Interpol notice and so on. And when the emergency was declared, I was requested by Jayaprakash Narayan that is no use you're doing anything in India because everything is under control. But certainly the media will be totally out of use for you. So you go to the United States and Europe, English-speaking countries like England, and do propaganda there about what's happening, because the government has done propaganda that is some criminals who have been arrested, and she's brought law and order into India. That is Mrs Gandhi. So I went, escaped, even though there was a warrant against me. I had gone underground, but I managed to escape out of India. I was about 6 months in the United States, Canada, England. And then it became clear that the resistance to the emergency had waned quite a lot. So there was a question as to what I can contribute. So there, although Mrs. Gandhi's government had put out, notices, international notices, all kinds of cases against me, lookouts, so on, I managed to come into Delhi, landed in a regular flight of the Pan American. There was a Pan American, which is now no more. I got off and came through the Delhi customs, and then I ended up in my own house with a 7-8 policemen sitting outside looking for me. But they were all tired people because I had been abroad and it was widely known that I was abroad, so the police was not taking it very seriously.
Okay.
And therefore they were playing cards when I came.
Okay.
Yes. And that time I entered my house wearing a pagdi, and my wife opened it. She knew that I was coming. And I said, कुछ खराब है आपकी telephone में? मैंने कहा, I said that. She said, हाँ. So I went in. Now these people outside, the police who were sitting outside, were playing cards. They were not noticing. I looked like a sardar. I looked like a mechanic. And then there was a change of police. So therefore the next one was not informed that somebody has gone in. So I stayed in my own house despite 18 warrants of arrest for me. Interpol notice. I stayed in my own house for about 5 days. And then on the sixth day, I came out, and my car was just parked outside my exit door. And I asked my wife to accompany me. And I drove to the Parliament House. In those days, there was not much,
security.
There was not enough. We used to go right, they could take your car right up to the door of Parliament. There before that I asked my wife to get down and come to Ram Mandir, which is about 2 kilometers away, and see if there is a car that I have left behind. And if it is left behind, then the keys will be under the mat. And that means I have buzzed off. And you go home. So that's what she did, and from there I got a train, went to Bombay. There the RSS received me and kept me safe. And then I went to Nepal and flew back to America. And all these things demoralized Mrs. Gandhi no end. They raided my house, they took away many of my thing with my car and refrigerator, all that. So, but at the end of 20 months, Mrs. Gandhi declared the election, and many people say because of the fact that I was able to go into Parliament, and when the Speaker was reading out the obituary list for the interperiod, I got up and made a point of order with everybody watching me, saying that democracy is also died, so you should include democracy in the list. And the speaker said, no, this is no suggestion. And then he concluded the reading of the obituary. And I said, I walk out. And everybody was stunned. Nobody could understand how I came. And Mrs. Gandhi was not there. She would have reacted luckily. So I went off and I went again back to America. So it was a huge news. The foreign press had come and they put it out that Mrs. Gandhi shown to be a tin pot dictator and so on and so forth. Here's a man who had about 18 cases against him, comes from America, goes into Parliament, makes a speech and just buzzes off, no disguise. And so she's obviously lost control. And later on, much later, when I became friends with Rajiv Gandhi, he told me that his mother decided to hold election because she now felt She has lost control, and therefore it's better to have elections. And they were, of course, sure of winning it. So that's my contribution, which everybody remembers, or their parents tell their children, and the children then remember. It's an issue. It's just required nerves, and I had nerves.
Nerves of steel, absolutely.
Yes.
To come back from another country, visit
Yes.
your own house, visit Parliament, and make your escape, all while everyone's wondering what happened.
That's right.
Since you mentioned Mrs. Gandhi, your relationship with the Gandhi family has been,
Yeah.
sometimes blow hot, blow cold. So, do you feel, how has it been, and do you feel that any one of them will have a crucial role to play in Indian politics in the next decade or so?
Rajiv Gandhi is a wonderful man.
Mhm.
I liked him very much, and he was a real patriot. But he was hamstrung by his wife, the Italian wife, and he was assassinated. He shouldn't have gone there. I was at that time a minister, and I told him, "Don't go. The LTT is waiting for you, and the elections that were going on in Tamil Nadu, you're going to win anyway. So why should you go?" But the family pressure was there. It would always be suspicious why that pressure was there. Because Chidambaram and Mr. Manishankar Iyer were candidates in Tamil Nadu. And they were making a big hoo-ha about the fact that Rajiv didn't come and they may lose and so on. So Rajiv Gandhi went, and we knew that it would be very difficult to protect him also. And he was assassinated. So I certainly missed him a lot, but none of the succeeding generations had his quality. Even his Rajiv Gandhi's mother, Indira Gandhi, she was friends of friends and enemies of enemies, but she had basically no ideas. Rajiv Gandhi had ideas, and he wanted to put it into action. He built the defense, our defense, in a very big way. In fact, many foreign countries were unhappy with him for the way he was building the defense. And he was also moving towards a market economy, and it suited me, which Narasimha Rao then later on picked and got it done. So after that, none of both Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, I know her background, and I don't want to tell it unless you specifically ask any particular part of her background. But she's not fit for India. And Rahul Gandhi doesn't want to live in India. In fact, he has a British passport, British citizenship, and I've gone to court on it.
Yes.
To unseat him. And then he'll run away. He's being forced by his mother to stay here because she thinks that without power she will be persecuted, she will be chased. So I think that's perhaps the only motive I can think of. So I have nothing to do with the succeeding generation. Mrs. Gandhi, after the defeat in the emergency and my friendship with Rajiv Gandhi, she became more and more friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was going after the Sikhs, I told her, don't do it. They will go after you, and they will not let up till they get you. And 1 month before her assassination, she told me that you are right. They are after me, and I don't think there's an escape. I told her that was in Parliament in the corridor, and so then I told her I can talk to them because the Sikhs had a great liking for me because Bhindranwala somehow thought that I was the best politician in the country. So I became friends with Bhindranwala. So, it was too late, and she was assassinated. So thereafter, Mr. Narasimha Rao, him I have known for a long time. He became Prime Minister after Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. And he made me a minister with minister's rank in his cabinet. And he took my advice on all this, bringing market economy and giving up socialism. And that time I was a hot favorite. In fact, Mr. Narasimha Rao wanted me to join Congress. But by then I thought that I have my real goal is not only to improve the economy but also to bring about a certain identity issue of Hindutva amongst the 80% of India who were all divided into caste, region, language and so on, and make them think of themselves as a Hindu in order to be sufficiently strong. So that's how today I'm working.
It's also because of you, sir, that Hindu pilgrims are able to visit Mansarovar.
Yeah, that's right.
And there is a story behind it. And among the side notes we hear is that you also speak Mandarin very well.
Yes, I speak Mandarin.
And tell us about the story, how you were the first batch of pilgrims.
Yeah, you see, in the time of Mr. Narasimha Rao, he was very keen we should improve our relations with China. So I said, well, you got a foreign minister, you ask him. So he said, no, you know Chinese, you've written books on China, they're very classic books I've written, published by the University of Chicago Press and many others. And the Chinese also thought very well of me because I not only spoke Chinese, but I was in favor of balancing between the United States and China. And so they invited me, and finally they had a problem after Mao Zedong's death, that the whole economy was in a mess. So they needed a lot of money from the World Bank. And they had just been admitted to the World Bank when Deng Xiaoping became the head. So I got a message from him that if I could somehow help the IMF and the World Bank give the concessional loans they're asking, because there was a lot of resistance there. So at that time, I had gone to Washington, and I was invited by the World Bank to give a talk on the present state of the economy. I have one great credit I have in academically. Everybody, all these Amartya Sens and so on, were saying that the Chinese are growing at 10% per growth rate and they have solved their unemployment problem and all which is all bunk. And after Mao Zedong's death and Deng Xiaoping took over, he wanted the reality to be known and he spoke openly, but he wanted to improve it, so he wanted this money from the World Bank, which the Chinese didn't have. So I gave a speech or a seminar in the World Bank, and the World Bank, they were convinced, and they got the money, concessional loans, very low interest rates. So then Deng Xiaoping invited me to meet him, which he rarely did with anybody. He was a recluse. So I went to China and met him. It was, I think, a 4-page coverage in the India Today at that time. All the media had big coverage. And in the end, Deng Xiaoping said, "What is it that I can do for you for what you have done?" So I said, I've been long wanting to go to Kailash Mansarovar, which since the communists came to power, you have closed it. So I wanted it reopened. So he didn't know what Kailash Mansarovar was. So his assistants told him what it was. Then he said, yes, but you can't go there because there are no roads, there's nothing and all that, So it's difficult for me to allow you to go. I said, you are great builders of roads. I've seen how many roads you've already built in China. I can't believe that you can't build a road. Then he said, you're a tough guy, and therefore there's one punishment. You must go first. And I did go, and it was horrible.
Really?
Yeah.
Difficult.
Oh yeah, it was really hard. And then coming down is also very bad on your knees, you see. It's very steep, there were no developments that had taken place. Now it's much better. But I'm most surprised that when I returned back, there was a military camp at the top of the mountains called Lipu Lake. And I got a message which said that Mrs Indira Gandhi is sending an aeroplane to pick you up, a helicopter, and bring you back to Delhi.
Okay.
So she was that started my friendship with her. And with that, I used to meet her, talk to her. But of course, there was no question of my joining Congress, because I had this mind in my mind that I must do something for the Hindu society, and that I couldn't do in a secular party. It had to be something like, those days it was called Jansang, then it became later on now BJP. So that's how it went, and in between I had a quarrel with Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee because he was a softie, and he didn't want to take hard lines where it was necessary. So I kept my own party, called it Janata Party. It was a continuation of Jayaprakash Narayan's. BJP had broken and formed a separate party called BJP. So at that time, there was a lot of freedom I had, so I could become minister and have minister rank position in cabinet minister rank position in Narasimha Rao's government. And then I began this problem of fighting corruption, which became the major issue at 2G.
Yes.
A lot of people had to go to jail.
Yes.
And ministers had to go to jail. So that gave me a huge boost. And then the people in BJP, like Advani and all, tried to overrule Vajpayee. And ultimately, that's how I ended up in BJP. Of course, they are all my old known people. I was in Jansang.
Right.
They are all known to me. They were in Janata Party. They are all known to me.
Right.
So that was really my home in that sense.
When we talk about the 2G case,
Yes.
it looks like an entire mountain that was moved, because it
Yes.
was like a mountain of data, of confusion. So how did it happen? How were you able to crack through?
First of all, I have to thank the two judges of the Supreme Court. They are the ones who had the nerve to take on the ruling party. They even summoned, on my petition, they summoned Manmohan Singh to come and make a statement. The getting data in India is very easy. A lot of people want help. Only they want to make sure that you will not expose them. So people brought me files and photostat files, gave it to me, and so I just reconstructed the whole thing, filed a petition. And these two judges then issued notice, and finally A. Raja, who was one of the DMK components of the Congress coalition government, he was sent to jail. Many others were sent to jail, and that gave me a huge boost. And then I have continued with other corruptions. I've got Mrs. Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi on bail. Rahul Gandhi is on bail.
Yes, the National Herald case.
Yes, National case. Well informed. So that case is still on because, surprisingly, and I must tell you this, whether you can show it or not, it's up to you. It is Mr. Modi who is blocking me from bringing this to a finality. Now I've got one more thing, that Rahul Gandhi has British citizenship. I produced the documents. And a notice was sent by the Home Ministry. That time the Home Minister was Rajnath Singh. And he sent him a show cause notice why his citizenship should not be taken away, because he is a British citizen. So Mr. Modi removed Rajnath, sent him to defense, and brought in his favorite man, who's the Home Minister today, who doesn't touch it at all. So now I've again reactivated the matter by going to court, saying that the court should direct the government to proceed with Rajiv Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi's thing, and that means he will not be able to be a parliament member in our country.
So you have the rare distinction, if I can put it that way, that you're not a lawyer, but you have, I'm correct, right?
Yes,
but
absolutely.
But you have never lost a case.
Yes.
But in fact, it's ma'am who's a
yes,
lawyer.
Yes, she is the one who first educated me, yeah. And she did most of my petitions.
Right. So there have been a lot of other high-profile cases that you have either, had a completely deciding role in.
Yes.
Like, for example, the Ram Temple case.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
Yeah, I'll tell you the Ram Temple case. First, I had that's the way I got now sucked into this Hindutva thing. There was a lot of sentiment that Ram Mandir should be rebuilt. There were demonstrations and so on, and slowly it became a court case in the Allahabad High Court case. Allahabad High Court. So there were two parties. One, the Waqf board people who said, no, this is a masjid and we will not allow it to be anything else. And the people, pujaris, who said, no, there was a Ram Mandir and ancestrally we are the people who are there. And this dispute went to the High Court in Allahabad, and which is now called Prayagraj. And there the court finally decided that 2/3 of that area will go to Hindus and 1/3 to the Muslims. And that was not acceptable to either. So they came to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was lying it was not being heard because the Chief Justice once told me in an informal discussion that what can we do? We can have the same thing, go over the same thing, and then say not 2/3, 1/3, but 3/4, 1/4, something like that. But they won't agree. So let it be. Let it be put away. But Ashok Singhal, who was leading the Ram Mandir movement, was getting sick and he was thinking that he's going to die, and he did. But he told me before that this is something you must take. I had earlier done something for him which nobody thought could be done. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he was Prime Minister, with the DMK allies, they decided to cut a canal between Sri Lanka and the eastern coast of India. And that was called the Setu Samudram project. That were meant cutting through the bridge that Rama built to go across to Lanka. And there was an uproar, but Vajpayee was determined that it should be done. So I went to court and I won the case. The court said, no, you can't cut through that. And I had also provided two alternatives. I said, instead of a canal through the waters, put a railway line from Kanyakumari to Chennai and Calcutta along the coast. It's cheaper, better, and so on. All that I proved. And so the court then took my side and said, we won't touch this. This is a heritage monument. And therefore, if you want to put a way to take the goods from Indian Ocean to Bay of Bengal, this is the way you build a railway line. So I won that, and that created a huge respect in the Vishwanath Petitioning. And that's how Ashok Singhal came to me and said, nobody else can do it, but you can. So I took it up. But there were already two parties in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court attitude that, nothing new is going to come out of this from what the High Court did. So let it be not taken up at all. So I had to think of something which would make a difference, and the court will say, okay, we want to hear it. And suddenly, I don't know what I can say. I was going through the Supreme Court for some other case, and there was a very well-known lady, advocate, whose husband also I knew. He was also a very good advocate. But she stopped me and said, if you promise you'll never take my name to anybody and never tell anybody of my giving you, let me tell you, there is only one way you can do this, and that is by saying that Rama was born. There is a fact of faith. which is in the constitution. And therefore, I cannot go anywhere else except this place, which my faith says that Rama was born. And faith cannot be challenged. It's in the preamble of the constitution. So I applied that, and immediately the court took it up. And after taking it up, in a short while, we got the order. And I must congratulate the Muslim community also. They also said that now, since you have established the faith part, we agree, because a masjid can be built anywhere. It's not a holy place in that sense. It's only a place to read namaz. So they agreed, if they said, if you give us another piece of land, which we gave. And that matter was solved, and now Ram Mandir is coming. Of course, my problem with Modi is that all along he was opposed to my raking this up. He said it cannot be solved and so on. It'll create bad blood, and our government will have a problem. But the day when he found that the court is going to decide in my favor, he piled in and he took over the whole project and kept me out of it. Although we won the case and that was in my name. But after that, the building and all that completely kept me out. And that didn't matter because the whole country knew this is who did it. And so these are, of course, side issues. But the fact is that Rama has been. But now, on the same principle, I looked at all the temples which had been demolished by Muslims, invaders, and there were about 40,000. Now, are we going to revive all that? Then the thought came to me that I got Rama done because that is the place from where no other place is possible. So there is of this 40,000 remaining, are there any others which are like that? So two came out. One is Krishna's Janmabhoomi. So that also can't be put away. So that should be also rebuilt, on which there is presently a masjid built by Aurangzeb. And the other is Kashi Vishwanath, where Shiva planted the Jyotirling. And that has been broken 3 times, twice by earlier than Aurangzeb. But Aurangzeb did one thing. Normally, according to Islam, if you break a holy structure of any other religion, then you should not put a mosque there. But he broke it by saying that if I don't build it, like the previous 2 times, they rebuild it. So therefore, I will ensure that they will not rebuild this Kashi Vishwanath temple. And so he built a big masjid there. So these two also on the same principles, which I'll take up a little later, we will get it. And I think then I tell all these fanatics, no 40,000, nothing. Those are, you can go and build it somewhere else because there is no bar for you to shift that temple. And if you are going to live with Muslims, we have to have somewhere accommodation, and this is an easy accommodation. And the Muslims are also ready that if you say 3 and remaining 40,000 will not be touched, we are with you. So I hope to do this in the coming years.
And a solution, and bring about a solution acceptable to all.
That
is the intent.
Like we did in the Ram temple.
Yes. Since we're talking about temples, there's also all this talk about temples being so-called under government control.
Yeah.
What are your views on that? And what are technicalities of it?
I've liberated some very famous temples. One, the Shiva temple in Tamil Nadu, Sabha temple it is called. I took it to Supreme Court, argued the matter saying that this is a temple which cannot be built anywhere else. Because it was a temple built according to belief on Shiva's orders. So we can't build it anywhere else. So that was the court decided in my favor in the Supreme Court, and that's there. There are one I'm doing in Pandharpur in Maharashtra, which nobody was. I mean, in fact, I was shocked to find that our own government has taken over the temple the Maharashtra government has taken over it. So I told Fadnavis that you come to grief, and he is coming to grief. And I'm going to win this because it's in the Bombay High Court. And all indications are that I will get this temple liberated and returned back to the people who had built it. And I also, suddenly one day, Narendra Modi gave an order that all temples in Uttarakhand will be taken over by the government. And the gold in each of these temples will be transferred to the chief minister. I felt this is one way of looting there. So I went to the court. First I tried to argue, they weren't listening. So I went to the Uttarakhand High Court and argued there and won the case. And all of them, all 23 temples have been returned back, and they are now in private hands. So, but my one judgment that I got of Sabhanagar in Tamil Nadu is enough by letter for others to fall in line, but they are disobeying the law. So I have to go to the court and get it done. Like Pandharpur. Pandharpur, in fact, one letter would be enough if the chief minister was well inclined. But he is not doing it. He is himself going and he is conducting, Fadnavis is even conducting the puja once a week.
Off the
You know nothing about puja. Therefore I have to now, I've gone to court. Court is we are in the final stage, and I am hoping that sometime this year we'll win and have Pandharpur. I'm saying Pandharpur because you are also from that part of the world.
Yes, absolutely, I am.
So, and there are others. There's one in Prayagraj, which they came. Now everywhere people come here, pile in here and want me to come and save the temple. So I'm saying that let me see if somehow I can get I can get a hand on the government. I'll do it in one blow, all of them. But not to going from one place to another. So it's a tedious process.
You've been, you don't hesitate to take up causes if you feel they are right. It doesn't matter whom you're going up against.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's my party or not.
So,
And the party also has to hesitate. What can they do? They can chuck me out. I'll be much worse outside the party than inside.
so what is it? So when I was doing my research on you, I also read that there have been various, threats to your life and your family's life because of the stand you've taken.
Yeah.
So is that, is that something you disregard? Like, it will not happen. Does it bother you? Or is the greater cause?
Well, according to our Hindu beliefs, when the time to go comes, you will go. You may slip on a banana and go. When the time is not right, nothing will happen to you. And I've been through situations, especially in the emergency, when it was certain that I would be caught and murdered by Sanjay Gandhi. But instead, they lost the election and I put Sanjay Gandhi in jail. So it's called Uparwala.
Uparwala, yes. There are also a lot of other lesser known facts about your life. Like you were the senior most minister in Chandrasekhar's government.
Yes.
And there was a $2 billion.
There's the Americans. Yeah.
Yes.
See, the Americans always have a love-hate relationship with me. The hate is because I talk back to them. They're not used to.
Yeah.
I was a professor at Harvard. I was a PhD from Harvard. And as a Harvard man, we look down on all Americans anyway. So, but what happened is that when VP Singh government was there after Rajiv Gandhi's, they completely ruined the economy. And we were about to default on foreign payments of foreign loans. So Chandrasekhar, I must say to his credit, he was not one of those people I only know. He told me, this is the economics matter, do anything about it. Can you tell me how we can get out of this mess? Otherwise, tomorrow all our status as an international, international body will go, and we will be outcasted and so on and so forth. So I said, let me see if something can be done. So one day, the American ambassador came to see me, and he said, we are going to go to war with Saddam Hussein, and we need most of our planes to be taken out from Philippines and brought to Iraq, but it has to refuel. So can we refuel in India? Of course, we'll pay well oil for the petrol, that is what the petrol equivalent that we do, we'll pay you 3 times, 4 times something. So first I asked him, why don't you go to refuel in Pakistan? So they said, there are other dimensions which we have to take into account, which meant they are a Muslim country, and they may object, or they may be, these American planes may not be safe. So I told him, the Prime Minister has asked me to decide with you, but it's a real break from the past, and what's in it for us? He said, you name the price, we'll give you. We'll give you 3 times the price that when we land the plane, there is groundwork and so on. I thought those are all peanuts, I can do it. So then he said, how much would you like? I said, we are short of $2 billion, which will be by today's standards $20 billion.
$20 billion.
Yeah. But in terms of purchasing power parity, $2 billion then would be today $20 billion. So he said, I said, we need $2 billion because we have our foreign exchange, everything has been exhausted by the previous government. So he said, we will speak to the World Bank and get you the loan. I said, yes, but it has to be a loan without interest, because the interest will be too much. So, but then I said, if you want your plane to land in Delhi, in India, because you want to land 4 or 5 places, then you better do this. Otherwise, you take a plane somewhere else. Then he looked at me and he said, your Prime Minister told me to talk to you and that you will settle, but you seem to be in an obstructionist mood. I said, listen, put your money where your mouth is. It's an American phrase. Either you do it or end this matter. And he said, he's let out a series of abuses. Should I never let you be educated in Harvard?
Too late for that.
And they sent $2 billion. They said, when do you want it? I said, Monday. He said, oh, but today is Friday. I said, it's Friday in Delhi. But in Washington, it is Thursday night. You've got a whole night to get the work done. If you want to do it, do it. Otherwise, say goodbye. So he let out a series of American abuses and said, it'll come. And it came on Monday. And that's how we saved a complete collapse at that time, because BP Singh had completely ruined our foreign exchange thing. So that's how we survived.
So it was an economic superhero move. Absolutely.
Well, Dada move.
Since we're talking America and American politics,
yeah.
We have the upcoming US elections.
Yes.
What are your views on, because both the candidates are such polarizing factors, what are your views and what do you think is going to happen?
Nobody can ignore India. But then India also must act in a way where they must respect you. I would say, why are you not taking the side of the Israelis in toto? All these people who are after Israel today, they are never going to be for you. They have never been in the past for you on Kashmir. So we need a policy which will get us, a good word in America. And Israelis have such a network in the United States that if today we are supporting, we are better than before. We have, after all, diplomatic relations with Israel, which other governments didn't do, except the Narasimha Rao did it, and we've taken it quite far. But this balancing act, you see, on the other hand, these other people, Hamas and all, they also, now we must have peace and quiet. How can you have peace and quiet with all the horrible things they did, starting with October 7th of last year? So we are not being taken as a friend of America. We are taken as a large country which can't be ignored. So the American attitude is, don't push India into the Russian camp or the Chinese camp or whatever. Keep your hands there, and someday we'll get another chance. But Americans really are black and white people, in the sense, if you want something big from the Americans, you better be their ally. We have formed a quad, those four countries.
Yes.
But that is, Modi says, no, that is only for environmental problems and this and that. It's got nothing to do with defense. Then it is valueless. So I don't know what is holding Modi back from being a formal ally of the United States in dealing with terror, and that includes Muslim countries. Then the Americans would take you seriously. The Americans are give and take people. You can never get anything good out of the Americans if you don't. If you take, then you must give also, and talk it out. So there. I think whoever becomes president of the United States, he will go by American interests, and it doesn't really matter. It's true that Kamala Harris loathes meeting Modi. Last time when the meeting took place, the President Biden had to literally force her to meet Modi. And he had to go to her room, which is protocol-wise a wrong thing to do. But, Modi looks only at the media in India, which doesn't know A from B. Protocol they will never understand. But Modi went to her office and called on her. I mean, the Prime Minister of India calling a Vice President. That's against protocol. But she is a person who is, although she is half Tamil, she is not well disposed to right-wing India. She is basically the left wing. And as far as Trump is concerned, you can't tell when he'll hit you from the back and when he'll kiss you in the front. He's okay. I mean, but he can tomorrow suddenly make up with Pakistan and tell us to go to hell. So I mean, he is erratic. So what is the outcome? I would say, for the time being, we should continue with the Democrats.
Wars moving forward are no longer necessarily only fought in a military way. There's a lot of economic shenanigans in the background.
Yeah, but that with the United States will anyway have the conditions will be stricter. For instance, our people who want to go to America, there's a big demand for Indians, because the Indians are nice people. They are not riotous type. So they want more Indians want to go to America, and the Americans have a quota. And if we were an ally, it will be almost.
It would be different. So my question, since you're an economist primarily, is that in our neighboring countries there've been governments overturned in not in a electoral fashion or not in a democratic fashion, if I can put it that way. Are we also in danger of these similar philanthropic organizations interfering in our elections, and how do you think we can deal with it?
Well, they can interfere only to the extent that they give money. They ensure that the publicity in BBC or New York Times is given. But our people will not be easily influenced. You see, just go back to Mrs Gandhi calling for elections after the emergency. Every seat in UP, Congress lost. Every seat in Bihar they lost, Madhya Pradesh they lost, Rajasthan they lost, Haryana they lost. North India was a complete wipeout in the most uneducated part of India. It is in fact the educated South which voted for Mrs. Gandhi.
Back in the day, yes.
Yeah. So I think we need not worry too much about American influence on us because the Indian people, they have won our freedom. We have won our freedom after 1,000 years of butchery and loot and so many things. The undercurrent is keep your self-respect and don't allow anyone to dominate you. Nobody can take over India now because of the culture that is coming.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, of course.
I'm really happy to hear your views, sir, that you do not believe anyone from the outside can influence Indians to not think for themselves. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of demand for the caste census recently, as well as there's been talk about, let's remove the cap that the Supreme Court has put on reservations. So what do you think is the intention behind these demands? And
the only appeal is that somebody thinks that he can get more votes by this. But I think, first of all, not that they're going to succeed, but we should in fact create now. See, the truth is not known to the people because it's for years and centuries we have not gone to our scriptures in a serious way. Lord Krishna says very clearly to Arjuna that no one has a Varna. We have Varna and Caste. They are two different things. I explained that also. But the four Varnas is not based on birth. If you are a scholar, you have given up the desire for material things, and you're a teacher or you're an advisor to the king, you are a Brahmin. And the social status is higher than that of the king. So the king will go to the
Kshatriya.
Kshatriya, yes. And Kshatriya's job is to fight. Vaishya's job is to do business. And the Shudra is to do agriculture. This untouchability stuff came much later. It's not there in any of our scriptures. So originally it came because of the fact that someone had committed murder or committed the thing. So he was ostracized. But after the foreign invasions, this started to grow because people captured Brahmins and made them eat things which they are not supposed to eat and do things which they are not supposed to do. So the Brahmins became scheduled class. So over the years, the numbers grew. But we know that if you properly educate them and give them the due respect, then like Ambedkar, you will come and write the Constitution of India. There is nothing, the genetic part, there is no difference between Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Shudras, untouchables, whatever. There is just no difference. So Arya and Dravidian is a nonsensical concept. Arya is a concept of a person, civilized person, etc. It applies to every Indian who is like that in any part of India. But the British made it in their concocted history, they made it as North India. And that they came, originally the Dravidians came, and the Dravidians are black and these people are white. Well, if you live in the south and the sun is a direct ray on you, you are bound to develop
or darker
skin. If for centuries and centuries, it becomes almost like that. So now the DNA tests have shown that we are all one. There's no difference, absolutely no difference. And that should be propagated. So all this caste and all that, I am totally against it. It's all a very selfish thing for electoral gain. And we should oppose it tooth and nail. We should say, no, nothing. Anybody can be Prime Minister, anybody can be President. Anybody, this thing, it's got nothing to do with caste. It's just slowly inculcate the idea that if you're a professor, you're automatically a Brahmin. And you don't make an issue of it. But then, if you want to be a Brahmin, you must behave like a Brahmin, which means you don't hanker after property and be corrupt and things like that.
Do you believe that the lack of unity is the biggest challenge for Hindus today?
The bottom line is that we are united. That is 1962 mistake of the Chinese. They themselves told me. They thought India will fall apart. But India united. India united with Pakistan at the time also. So I think the bottom line, Indians are still very much with each other. But there needs to be more. The word must get around that we are all the same people. You see, if you are in the south, you are bound to be darker than if you are in Kashmir. Because the weather is like that. You see, and even in south, if you are not moving in the sun, you will be looking like anybody else.
Yeah, you've also been one of the earliest people who says Indians must develop more of a risk taking mindset. Right. So how do you think we can do it? And do you believe we are naturally risk averse as people?
Yeah, we have this craze for becoming bureaucrats. Why? There is no risk. It's all graded. Risk is when you try something and fail. This fear of failure, after having done your best to win or to come out of the top, if you still fear, then that weakens you. You have to take, and there's no such thing as a man who will be seriously failing. Serially, he will not fail. They'll go up and down, up and down, up and down. And that capacity you should have. I think when you try something, it's always risky. You see, when I came back from India, I became a professor at IIT. Mrs Gandhi ordered that I should be sacked. No notice, nothing. She sent me a letter. She had a letter sent to me that you're no more professor. I'm a full professor. And they called me from Harvard to come and teach. And then Mrs. Gandhi, I think some people must have gone to her and said, this man is spreading anti-communism and anti-socialism and so on and so forth. He's talking about market economy. So she must have said, sack him. Now, after that, I couldn't get any job in India. Anywhere. I even applied to Dibrugarh University. They said, sorry, we have instructions not to give it to you. So I came to politics. Everything changed. I became, as an MP, I became a member of the Board of Governors of IIT, this very body which dismissed me.
Yes, I did read that. Yes.
Then they all said, no, now we will undo that. It was done at the wrong time, blah, blah. No, I said, I'll fight in court. I fought in court, and after about 25 years, I was reinstated as a professor. And I got my back salary at 8% per year.
And you worked for one day and then you
then I landed up there. I accepted being a professor. And the next day, I wrote out a resignation letter. But now I had gone too deep into politics. And anyway, whenever I wanted, Harvard would call me for a semester to come in there.
Do you believe it was destiny that you entered politics because you had planned
Yeah,
for the
I
academician?
agree. That's what I'm saying to people. That there is destiny, and you can't say I want to then if you don't become, you become disappointed. I was in fact told by two of my Nobel Prize winner advisors, I mean thesis advisors, Simon Kuznets and Paul Samuelson, that stay 5 years in America, you will get the Nobel Prize, because I had done a lot of work on index number theory. And Samuelson had also written praises about it. But I felt now that that had come. I came back to India, and I was not permitted, and nobody wanted to give me a job in the universities. Then my destiny is somewhere else, and suddenly I became an MP. Then I became a minister. I've been minister, MP 6 times as university.
Yes, yes. This was the last 2 questions before
Yes.
we let you go. You've come, you almost, from your own interviews, you almost became Prime Minister.
Yes.
You've had finance ministers coming to you.
Yes.
You've been part of the cabinet. So, but you've still never rested on your laurels, and you've never hesitated to take up a fight that you feel is the truth. So, what is it that motivates you? Is it the love for the truth, or like what?
What motivates me is the freedom to do what I want to do. If somebody denies me something, I should become despondent, you see. He's done it, but if I want to do it, try again. So in 1984, when Mrs Gandhi was assassinated, we all lost the election. So I went off for 2 years to teach at Harvard, came back, and again entered Parliament. So I can make that adjustment. I may say that no, I'll stay in politics no matter what. Then there will be periods when you're not destined to be a politician or be an MP or a minister or whatever. At that time, I accepted, and somehow some invitation will come. Would you like to come and teach 1 semester at Harvard? Or I've got many invitations from the World Bank. I'm not gone, because there, nobody speaks the truth there. So I think my feeling is what Lord Krishna told Arjuna: you have only right to strive, but the result I will decide. If you win, I am responsible. If you lose, I am responsible. If you have that attitude, you will never be tense. So my wife, when we had this emergency, she said, we left everything and come here. She was also a PhD. She was at Harvard with me. I met her there only. And she comes from a Parsi family, which is, very, very money-minded. That helps me because I don't have to make money. So she asked me, are we going to continue like this? I said, well, you see, we are destined for something. It will happen. Everything changed. I became a minister in Chandrasekhar's government. In fact, in Chandrasekhar's government, Rajiv Gandhi wanted me to be Prime Minister. But I told him I don't have MPs. He has MPs. And you are short by 50. I have to get 50 MPs. He can break VP Singh's party and bring 50s. Then he said, okay, he promised me after 1 year. So I said, okay, but 1 year I'm willing to discuss the matter. And after 1 year, Chandrasekhar was done so well. The main strength of Chandrasekhar was he was delegating. He never interfered. He never told me, do this, yes, mat karo, and all that. So he went to his head, and so he thought he could stand alone and win the election, and we were defeated. He didn't have the material for it, and his sycophants had taken over. So I'm saying that I have never been disappointed by outcomes, because I know I have only right to attempt to get the reward. But what happens is Lord Krishna.
And there's always tomorrow. That's what
There's
I mean.
always tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm into my 86th year, but nobody is telling me to retire. I'm all over the country addressing meetings. Tomorrow I'm off to America to start a Hindu-Jew association.
You mentioned that. Yes. God willing, sir, you're around to fight many more battles for us. And thank you so much for your time. And it was an honor to talk to you, and I hope to interact with you again. I'm sure I'll have lots more to talk about.
You've been very constructive in your questions, so
thank you.
You'll always get a chance.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our session with Dr. Swamy. He's an economist with the mind of a strategist, a politician with the heart of a warrior, and above all else, a nationalist. His opinions, his points of view, his insights are all worth listening to by every thinking Indian. And I'm sure, like me, many others have also been inspired today. Thank you so much, Doctor, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you.